Welcome back. The Public Service and Administration Ministry is tackling corruption by public servants. Over 1,500 public servants are involved in doing business with the state, something which is forbidden. Senzo Mchunu, the Public Service and Administration Minister, joins me now via Zoom from KwaZulu-Natal. Minister, good morning. And 1,444, you say, is the number of public servants doing business with the state. That's strictly forbidden in terms of the laws of the country. How is it possible that they are able to do this?
Yes, of course, it's a matter that we are very concerned about, because you are not talking about junior public servants who may not know or who may be confused. You are talking about senior people who are SMS, that is a very high level, from level 13 upwards. And therefore, I would say that it's a matter that we have to act in a decisive way, because there's no chance or room that people don't know. We've sent circulars after circulars. They are knowingly doing what they are doing, and all we need to do is to act and as a consequence of such. Yes, we're concerned about the number.
But Minister, let me suggest to you that what would help you would be for them, civil servants, to see examples before them, to say, this person used to own a company secretly while being a deputy director general in this department, and look where that landed them, in orange jumpsuits in jail, or perhaps they had to part with substantial amounts of money in civil cases. And for as long as that is not being seen as an example that's actually happening, you will continue to lament year after year.
Yes, I agree with you. That is why we have handed them over to the law enforcement agency in the form of the South African Police. And we have, via our DG, followed up, and despite the fact that police assist with COVID-related activities, they are making progress on the matter in terms of finalizing investigations. So it's precisely for that we can no longer talk or write circulars, but hand them over to the relevant law enforcement entity in the form of SAPS. Because we want action. We want the public there to be assured that where there's wrong, we are acting and there's a consequence. So I agree with you entirely.
Minister, it's a bit of a moving target, is it not? Trying to sort of ascertain whether or not a civil servant is actually doing business with government. I was looking at the report that Minister Patricia de Lille gave about her own department, that the initial figures were pointing to 3,700 civil servants conducting business with the state in that department. But they could only take action against, I think, 7, because when they would follow up, they would find that someone has resigned. They would find that in terms of the records, this person sort of resigned from the entity before becoming a civil servant. So there's some technicalities that make it difficult for you to know what the actual status quo is.
Well, not really, because we just have to focus. That's why, among other things, we have established a unit that deals with ethical issues, that deal with professional matters, that deal with criminal activities, just focusing on this so that they working with Treasury, they create an environment of certainty on these matters. In the past, there was, in the sense that you had a problem in the system that could certainly tell you what's happening and so on. And gradually, via this unit, this is we're now getting closer to actually doing what we have to do, because if people resign, if people do this and that, it's all we have to focus on is to say this person is suspected, and this person is for sure now after investigating, and we're now acting. And so some of those figures may come from suspicions, which would still require verification. All I want to assure the public about, and you in particular as well, is that we are obliged by the Constitution of the Republic to ensure that public servants act in an ethical and professional way, and we are obliged by the the legislative framework that we must act, and we're precisely doing that.
All right, Minister, let me then take advantage of the fact that I have you. Before I release you, let me ask you about the salary increases for public servants. I mean, this was due on the 1st of April, Minister. You as a government agreed to a multi-year agreement despite the fact that Labour actually didn't favour it to start with. How is it that we find ourselves in a situation where it hasn't been implemented? We are now in July.
Well, it hasn't been implemented for reasons that we have been discussing from October, November last year, and up to conciliation. We are now in arbitration, and unfortunately I can't take you on detail about that, but yes, reasons are being put forward to appropriate platforms where the matter is being discussed in detail and intensely. I note what you are saying, that we signed an agreement and that it is now July, but the matter is being dealt with at an appropriate level.
So technicalities aside then, and sensitivities that you can't decide, you can't discuss, let's put those aside. How is anyone to take government's word seriously if you agree 3 years in advance that in the third year we will pay between 4.3 and 5.4% to civil servants, and you simply don't keep your word?
No, it's not as straightforward as that. You must remember that between signing that agreement and now, there are many, many things that have developed in South Africa in between. So it's not a question of simply signing in 2018 and then going on holiday and then ignoring whatever, ignoring the argument. It's not as simple as that. There are matters that are in there. I issued a statement some time ago to the effect that we're committed to this, but we may need to find a way of implementing it, which is now part of what has led us to where we are because of some of the difficulties.
Right. Are you foregoing your increase as a minister?
Pardon?
Are you foregoing your increase as a minister?
Yes, of course. You know for sure that President Ramaphosa decided that there wouldn't be such increases, and at the moment, in fact, we are contributing to the COVID-19 Solidarity Fund. So we're not in a normal situation. We're not in a normal country.
Right.
Things are quite dire there, out there.
Right.
And therefore, time for such isn't around.
Minister Senzo Mchunu, thank you so much. I appreciate your time. He is the Minister of Public Service and Administration.